Hello there, boys-aholics, boys fans. Let's hear it for the boys.
Boys
Let's
and
hear it
Girls
for the boys.
Club.
Anyways, welcome back to Ember Productions. I am Maxwell Haddad, the M, and this is...
Amber Coates the Burr.
And
Hey,
that, of course, is our trusty, bearded, very
sidekick.
special guest. No, very special
Oh,
guest, Robert Adams. We are here to once
like
again talk to you about The Boys. Today we will be diving into season 3, episode 5, entitled The Last Time to Look on This World of Lies, which is directed by Nelson Craig and written by Ellie Monahan. Before we dive into like a recap and dissecting it, what did you guys think?
First of all, that's such an epic title. Like,
It is. It's
Oh, yeah.
ominous and epic and comic booky. And Robert,
Yeah.
The last time to look on this world of lies is right now.
yeah.
dum dum dum.
What'd you guys think?
I loved it. Oh my gosh. I literally was just like, that happened. Okay. That was an episode. That was a thing that happened. But unlike the other episodes where I felt like we were kind of, like there was action, there was fun, but some of it felt like you were crawling through a little bit. This one just went and it hit all of the perfect points that I wanted it to hit, and I loved it. Plus, there was an entire musical interlude. And I mean, if you know anything about us,
You can't go wrong with that.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I definitely say A plus.
It is one of the least action-packed and least violent episodes of arguably the entire series. And in my notes, I wrote it was one of my favorites. It is hyper character focused. It is really simultaneously dealing with the fallout from the previous 4 episodes, and then also really setting up what I think is going to be an epic, blood-soaked final 3 episodes of this season, which is perfectly positioned as the 5th episode. But I thought it was really excellent. The writing is so sharp, and yes, there is an elongated, glorious, candy-colored 1940s Hollywood-style musical number in a hospital. What do you think overall, Robert?
So it's kind of funny because I remember like last week we were talking about the last episode, and I was saying like, yeah, this kind of feels like a filler episode, and then y'all were basically correcting me like this is the episode that sets up like a bigger episode. I feel like now this was also like more of a continuation. This was the calm before the storm.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, again, we all know that this next episode is going to be all about the hero-gasm, which we can probably talk about for briefly in a little while. But
Hero-gasm.
Knowing what hero-gasm is from the comics, this episode is definitely the calm before the storm.
Yep.
Yeah, shit's about to be flying in the next episode, and probably quite literally.
An 8-episode season of television is interesting in terms of its structure, because in America we've only seen the 8-episode season more recently. They did it in England a lot, in other countries, but in America it was usually either 10, 13, or 22 on the networks. Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing about 8 episodes is you have the first 3 to sort of set everything up, build the stakes, then you have the middle 2 to be the table setters and the calm before the storm, and then the final 3 are the big climactic finale. And I think this season, if the last 3 go as I think all of us are kind of anticipating, that's exactly what these 2 episodes are. It almost does feel like a 2-parter. Then again, in serialized storytelling, everything is a continuation of what came before. But these two episodes, 4 and 5, are really thematically similar and tonally similar. 4 had a little bit more action, but this is all about the fallout from Soldier Boy escaping. And I think this is a great time to dive into the more specific minutia of this episode and to talk a little bit about what happened and why and what we think and some of our favorite moments.
I'm going to say something first. I want to go ahead and say that I posit that this episode should be renamed Billy Butcher is a fucked up Voltaire, because he definitely said, with great power comes the absolute certainty that you'll turn a right cunt. And I was like, that is absolutely the greatest line of the century. Like it subverts everything that we know and love, and I fell for it so hard. The other one was literally Starlight accosting A-Train in the hallway and saying, "Why are you so desperate to be with people who hate you?" And I put that in my notes because I was like, "Holy crap, yes, call this fucker out." And oh God, the places you will go, Dr. Seussian style, through this episode, because though it could be felt as filler or the calm before that storm, there was a lot in it. Like it had a lot. It was all like there's a lot of setup, and we got one of our first major sex scenes in the in the season, I would say. One of the first really big ones. And damn, like what a good episode. I cheered, by the way. I cheered.
Before we dive in, there's something I'd like to address. I think in all of our recaps / reviews that we've done, we've all, myself included, talked about how this show is political satire and how it is increasingly difficult to separate what they're doing with Homelander and our former president, Donald Trump. In an interview 5 days ago with Rolling Stone, the creator and showrunner of this show, Eric Kripke, said about Homelander, and I quote, "He's always been a Trump analog for me. I'll admit to being a little more bald this season than I have in past seasons, but the world is getting more coarse and less elegant. The urgency of our team's writing reflects that."
I would also like to say that it is absolutely hysterical that in the last couple of weeks, so many people have come out and said, "What do you mean Homelander's the bad guy?" I really vibe with him. Guys, that's a problem.
You want to be admitting.
They don't realize that though. That's the problem.
Hey,
like, guys, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
I don't spend all that much time on Reddit, especially not the boys subreddit, but it was pointed out to me recently that the boys subreddit has sort of been a hotbed of moderation and deleting comments and people confused, because there was genuinely a large subsect of the fandom of the show who did not think that Homelander was a bad guy and that identified with him. And I think, and we'll get into it more, I think we see that in this episode, and it's something we've talked about in the past. The guy who is dating Mother Milk's ex and is sort of now the stepfather to Mother's Milk's daughter is one of those people who is just taken with Homelander's message, who loves his bravado, his honesty, his there's a scene in this episode where you see him on TV and the Chiron says, Homelander speaks out against cancel culture. I don't think you need a PhD or even a bachelor's degree in political science to know that. And I'm glad Eric Kripke admitted it, that this season is more intentionally heavy-handed. Homelander is Donald Trump in the world of this show.
At least he's better looking. I mean,
yes, Anthony Starr is a better looking man. That's
Anthony.
True.
There's no H in there.
I'm going to call him Anthony, but it's Anthony. Fine.
He's.
I
his
also
Instagram
think
posts
he's just very mannequin looking.
He is. I mean, like all of his posts, anything that he does that satirizes basically what he does on the show, which is already like political satire, is just hysterical. And I sit there and oh my God, he cracks me up. But we should definitely do the rundown of this episode, and we can definitely talk about some finer points. Maxwell, if you want to take the lead on that, let's go.
Absolutely. So, like I said, this episode really picks up in the aftermath of last week, where Mother's Milk and Butcher are sort of discussing the morality of taking the temporary V. And I think one of the through lines of this episode and one of the through lines of this season, if not this entire series, is when the bad guys keep winning, where do you draw the line and how do you win? At a certain point, we were talking about this last week with the writing of Homelander's character. They keep stretching him out and out to be more and more evil and get away with more and more stuff with seemingly no way to defeat him. At a certain point, you have to stoop to their level. You can only fight fire with fire in some cases. And throughout this episode, and we see it in the final scene, which we'll get to, every character in The Boys, and by in The Boys, I don't mean the TV show, I mean in that group, has a very different opinion on whether or not they should be using temporary V in order to fight these heroes. And I think one of the most potent lines Mother's Milk says is the whole point of what we do is that no one should have that kind of power.
Yep. I mean, it's basically Mother's Milk is not on board with it, and we see that by the end, this has consequences. I mean, simple consequences, but he's a very morally righteous guy. And he's angry. He's angry because his family got killed at the hands of Soldier Boy. And he obviously, as a member of the Boys, he's anti-Soups. But now Butcher is becoming very more like muddy. He was already messy in terms of morals, but now he's really muddy because he was super anti-Soup, and now he's taking the Temp V. And that's gotta mess with you. Like it's just like taking, drugs in real life. And I'm not talking about things like, you know, like simple stuff like marijuana, because we all know that that has been found to do good things. But like the harder shit out there, like you start taking that regularly and it starts really fucking with you. Once or twice, okay, not that big a deal if you don't get hooked. But I feel like there's going to be some serious ramifications, and you can see that they're kind of going down that path. But Huey has really, really serious side effects. He's literally like just straight up vomiting into a sink. Like, and as he plays,
Gross.
I just want to give Jack Quaid so many props because having seen him as bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Huey with all of this optimism, who keeps getting knocked on his ass, who keeps getting showered in blood. And then in the same year, I saw him as a fucking killer in a mask who was
Oh,
literally deranged and psychotic. We also saw him walking through a park, but that's besides the point.
I
Um,
guess we're spoiling Scream in this. I might edit that out.
oh, my bad. I mean, I don't really think it's a spoiler now. It's June.
Okay.
But I mean, to see him play these dynamic roles, if it just really gets me and it does something for me. Like, I just love what he brings to this because he is a dynamic character actor. And to see Butcher look straight at his face and then see his child, like Ryan, who he considers to be his child, it just really flipped on me. It was really wild. Like I loved it. So go.
Anything to add, Robert?
Um, yeah, just how. So looking back, like kind of how you were saying, it's like a drug. If you recall, like when the first time he took that V24, he was puking also. It doesn't seem like he's really doing that anymore. He doesn't really seem to have like any like full side effects like that. Now he did have like that weird, I guess, like a hallucination of like Huey as a kid type of thing while Huey was sitting there puking in the sink. Otherwise, he doesn't seem to be suffering the same way he was when he originally took it. So his body is becoming accustomed to taking this, and that's not a good thing with like something that like this that is like an untested drug, basically.
Pretty
So
much.
yeah, the ramifications of what this may mean for him and now Huey, who's also seemingly addicted to doing it. Kind of curious as to how that's going to end this season. Probably in a gigantic, like bright green puke fest between the two of them.
Well,
But
yeah,
looking forward to that.
You use the word addicted, which does make me wonder if there's going to be an addictive quality to temporary V, and if that's going to be something we see in the latter episodes.
Yeah.
Because power on its own is addicting, and who knows what's in this drug that Vought cooked up.
It's
Yeah.
very true. But we move through that to like the very next scene is Ashley taking CEO-ship of Vought. And Homelander is clearly in charge. And one of the women in the room asks a question that's actually a valid question to be asking of a CEO.
A great question.
It wasn't even bad. Like she wasn't questioning him in any way whatsoever. She was just questioning what happens when ratings go down. And boy, did he ever lose his shit. And Ashley told her to leave the room.
She asked him the most simple economic question. What are your thoughts on reduction in EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation? Anyone who is the head of a big company or a small company should be able to answer that. And we once again see Homelander's deep insecurity and paranoia control his actions. And he flips the script and basically gaslights her and everyone at that table to doing what he wants.
Mm-hmm. It's dirty. And in the same basic sequence, the Deep is installed as the head of crime analytics, which is the biggest joke ever. And he and his adorable like trophy wife bring sprinkles cupcakes that actually spelled out something really funny, and I don't even remember what it was.
Crime.
I do not trust his wife at all.
No.
No, absolutely not. She's about as trustworthy as Goran Vishnik in the last season. Please, please. They're all crazy. But yeah, it was like crime analysis, but it said crime anal, and I was like,
the Deep took one of the cupcakes, so it said crime anal.
yes, and I was dying
anal
laughing.
is a crime.
It was so great, and then he told everybody they were gonna basically. He told everybody they were gonna. Y'all are the worst. Oh my god. He told everybody.
I'm done. We're done.
He told everybody they were going to sign up for performance reviews, and pretty like a little bit later in the episode, we find that he fired them all except for one person because Starlight is standing there trying to get information, and this girl's eating like an almond joy. She's like, "Do you want one?" And then she tells her that everybody got fired, and Starlight reneges and she goes, "Yeah, can I have half of that?" And just eats this entire almond joy. I was like, I feel that. I feel that on a deep personal level.
One of the things I noticed in this episode is Starlight has the worst taste in candy.
Almond Joy? Why Almond Joy?
Well, Almond Joy, Charleston Chew, and something else. And I'm like, of all the candies in the world, you want a Charleston Chew?
But have you not seen where
like
wasn't she raised in like the Midwest? That's a South and Midwest kind of thing. Like all of it.
We go from there to a scene with Huey and Starlight, and at first it sort of seems like Huey is bracing Starlight, and comforting her after the death of Supersonic. What was his name? Supersonic. And then it seems like he's gonna lie about what happened in Russia about the weapon, but he tells her everything. He tells her that Soldier Boy's still alive, and they sort of let him free. Tells her that he took temporary V, at which point she proceeds to chug a plethora of White Claw.
And doesn't get drunk. It's pretty great. I was like,
yeah, well, I think something we've always seen in superhero fiction is because of their superpowers and perhaps the way their metabolism works, especially if they have super strength or super speed or can fly, that it just processes it so fast. So you're never going to get drunk. You're never going to get fat. It
makes me think of Chris Evans just being like, throw it back.
Chris Evans, Captain America is the one I think of. Like, I can't get drunk. And like the funny thing about that, like it's kind of like a nice, like little humorous thing, but every person watching it, like, we can't be superheroes. I'm not gonna fly. I don't have super strength. I can't see through walls or whatever.
Not with that attitude.
Yeah, that defeatist attitude you have there, Robert. Good job.
You have some enthusiasm.
Yeah. You'll never be a superhero.
But the one thing we could all connect with is you're trying to get drunk and you can't, and we all know, like, oh, that's gotta suck.
Oh, there have been times where I'm like, oh yeah, all I need is 3 shots. And then I'm on like shot 8 and I'm like, why am I still sober? And then I fall off the chair. Oh, that's a me story.
I've watched some 1 year episodes of things that where you might have gotten increasingly, never mind, increasingly inebriated and verbose by the end.
The
Um,
the other really interesting thing in this scene is we can
I was wondering who
see,
she's talking about because I still don't have any clue.
it
yeah,
wasn't you.
Oh,
we
okay.
can
It
see
could be. Like I completely believe that's out there. So
Nobody
who
puts
knows.
anything past us at this point, so it's whatever. Continue, Maxwell. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. We can see how much Huey loved having powers.
And
Loved
he
it.
sat hanging out of the car like
Like I think
goofball.
for his character, someone who's always sort of been just like average Joe, average Huey, never amounted to much, had a dead end job, this sort of thing. Like now he finally feels like he's a part of something, and having powers gives him that taste of power. And power corrupts, and power is thrilling. And when you couple that with whatever's in this drug, a little worried about our boy Huey. I'm a little worried about what road he's going down.
I'm not. I think it's fun. It's so ridiculously fun. I love it. I want to see him do more stupid shit, but whatever. I mean, I understand. Uh, so just so we know, like my favorite part of the episode, one of them, Maeve arrives at Butcher's locale and she gives him more temp V and he's drinking and he offers her a drink and she says, I've been sober for 4 months. And he goes, it's been a year for me, and throws one back. And she starts drinking with him. They're talking about drugs, and he compares temp V to the drugs he's done, and he's like, none of it was like this. Um, it like he he talks about, decimating gunpowder powder. He says that the V made me more me, which is a very, very interesting quote. And like it's very scary because it means that Butcher is capable of a lot of really dark things, but when he has the power, he's even more terrifying, but luckily he's
he's
on
a
our side.
right old cunt.
Yeah, he's a right old cunt.
I,
Yeah.
I don't know if
Um,
it was in this scene or a later scene, and it reflects something I've always thought. Like we'll see in real life, people will blame their actions on alcohol, right? They'll say, well, but I've always felt that if you do something while drunk, all that the alcohol was doing was killing your inhibitions and allowing something that was already inside you that you normally are strong enough to hold back come out. So if the V makes him more him than him and it kills your inhibitions, he is a scary, scary dude. Now, obviously, he's fighting on the right side, but to what end and at what point? And I don't want to sound too much like Mother's Milk here. At what point do you go too far down the rabbit hole in an effort to do the right thing and rid the world of soups that you just become another one of them?
it's true.
Yeah.
Now I will say this is the part that I absolutely love because Maeve is like leaning forward. She's making this face. It's like depressed Maeve face. I coined that a couple seasons ago. Depressed Maeve face is my favorite face. And she mashes her face to Butcher's, and they definitely go at it right then and there. And I'm like,
the
hey,
second the second that the scene cut from her saying that she hasn't had a drink in like 4 months or whatever, and then it cuts to them sitting on the couch drinking, I was like, oh, we're about to get a Maeve and Billy Butcher like bang on here.
what
And
did I text you as it was happening before it happened? Maxwell, what did I send you?
She was like, "Are they? Tell me they're about to hook up.
I was like, tell me they're about to, yes.
Hook
yeah,
And
up."
because we're like everyone's
Butcher,
sitting there like, I want to see this.
listen.
This would be awesome.
Not only do they hook up, not only do they fuck furiously, but Butcher takes a sample of Maeve's taco for sure.
uh, um, but like, I was like,
So
yeah,
I'm
this is,
definitely clicking. This is not intended for kids when I upload this to YouTube.
oh yes, because all of our boys reviews are intended for kids. Um, None of them are, especially next week. Please don't watch next week. I mean, or do watch next week if you're an adult. I don't know. But yeah, so like they really fuck hard. Those are superheroes fucking. I was like, wow, okay.
It
They
kind
have
of
some
reminded
aggression they need to
me.
get out.
It kind of reminded me of a scene in season 6 of Buffy where Spike and Buffy have such passionate sex. And I don't want to get into a whole conversation about the context of it. A lot of people have different opinions where they have sex so hard that a building collapses around them. I was like,
That's great.
oh, this is intense. This is some wow, because you always watch superhero movies and TV shows, you're like, if you have two super powered beings passionately making love to each other, passionately fucking, like, there's
Thank
gonna
you.
be some physical damage.
The
It's,
vibrations from the gyrations.
oh, Jesus Christ. I will never get that out of my head. It's like the worst Spotify playlist ever. Look at Maxwell's face. Are you frozen or are you just dead? I think he's moving. He's dead. He's like, well,
The worst part was is it rhymed. No,
so
gross.
so to be
I
like,
should have been a rapper. That's it.
oh, thank God you weren't. Like, things I thank God for every day. Or for the goddess, I don't know who. But so we cut to Kimiko in the hospital. And little Nina's there, and she's talking. She's trying to get Frenchie to come work for her because a lot of shit happened in Russia. Um, like, you're the one who introduced us. You're the one who pays the debt. So now Frenchie is on the hook for people that died and a lot of shit that went down. Now Kimiko, however, no longer has powers, and it's because of Soldier Boy's blast. Something about this white hot blast that he can burn people, toss soups with, all this stuff removes powers. If done it because I mean, we've now seen it maybe like 3 times, and we know that people have died in 2 of the 3 blasts, correct?
Mhm.
Um,
And
so
it's interesting to note that this is not a power Soldier Boy had before. Whatever the
yes,
Russians were experimenting on him, testing him, like putting nuclear powers inside of him, whatever it was, this is a new evolution of his powers.
yes,
And
and
it just adds more credence to my theory last week that the end game, at least of this season, is Soldier Boy versus Homelander.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they even say that by the end of the episode, basically, that that's what
They
they
do.
want. Um, it,
I'm gonna go like theory real quick. I'm willing to bet this season's gonna end with him like blasting Homelander, and like the last shot we're gonna see is like Homelander looking like he's dead, and then that's it. And then season 4 will start with Homelander like on life support, and then
let
maybe Homelander is learning a lesson, and he's gonna be good all of next season,
Did
and then he
Robert
just
just spoiled everything that I was gonna say? Yes, he fucking did. No, I'm
sorry, I was
kidding.
thinking that too.
No. We trust me. Let's leave that for the end because I have a whole theory. Um, so we move on to Starlight calling A Train out. Why are you so desperate to be with people who hate you? A Train has a meeting, like an immediate meeting with this Blue Hawk guy because he's over patrolling black neighborhoods. Says you need to apologize. So we know we're going to that scene. The very next scene is Soldier Boy in New York, walking around bearded as fuck, looking kind of beat. He's trying to figure out what's going on, looking at a lot of propaganda for the heroes for the Seven. Here's a Russian synth pop song on a radio at a halal cart, and literally white hot scorches an entire city intersection and kills 19 people.
It's like Nitro from Marvel with the Civil
Yes.
War.
And then from that, we immediately cut to this fucking Cameron guy who's basically Tucker Carlson. And it's Homelander talking about, you know, the headline is Homelander fights cancel culture, and it's more bullshit, which we've already discussed that, he's basically, the superhero version of Donald Trump. So like we don't even need, like, you can glaze over it. You can just literally insert any speech here. Yeah, it's literally just a whole bunch of Donald Trump impressions, only by a semi-hot white guy with great hair.
And it walks such a fine line, and I think they stay on the
Uh-huh.
right side of the line between being like too
Too
much
much?
and just enough. Like, they're
Uh-huh.
teetering, but they have not crossed it yet, and I'm hopeful that they're not going to.
I don't think they're gonna cross it. I really don't. I think it's gonna be okay. It's a really, really hard line to walk when you want to be that meta and that current event forward. Because if you're trying to say something, you have to actually say it in this climate. You can't just get away with not saying it because that's basically what all the quote good guys do. They don't say it and they get overshadowed by the assholes. Um, however, we then Mother's Milk shows up at his estranged wife's house, his former wife's house, to pick up his daughter for like I believe they're going to like a science center.
Science Center.
And uh stepdad is just sitting there like Todd is letting the daughter watch a whole lot of Homelander stuff and it's all prop. It's all propaganda from the get. It's basically Homelander on the show and Homelander over here and Homelander over there. And you can see that what Todd believes has been ingrained into Mother's Milk's daughter. And it's not good. It's so gross. And as he's there, oh no, go ahead, sorry.
You just have to imagine this sort of thing happened and happens all over all the
Still.
time. You know,
It's terrifying.
we could sit there and think, you know, the kids are supposed to be better than us. Why and how do the kids believe it? This scene in this absurd, violent, gory, dildo fighting superhero TV show on Amazon right here has a scene that is emblematic of how our children can be indoctrinated into these heinous belief systems because this is what they're taught, and children are blank slates and learn what they're taught. And when your father figure who lives in your house is teaching you these things and putting this on the television and you don't know any better, and can you blame Mother's Milk for being so angry and hard at it? I mean, I was that guy from 2016 to 2020 when I had to you know, I got so enraged and argued with people who were just spewing out things that I found so repugnant. It can be hard to put on a filter and not get just furious, and especially for who has this deep personal connection to what the Soups have done.
Exactly. And it really sucks because anybody who doesn't fit the mold of white superhero, white pretty boy superhero, or you know, pretty chaste girl superhero. I mean, you know, we know she's not exactly chaste, but doesn't matter. Like we all know about Christian kids too. Um, the whole point being, it's the allegory of the real world, and except put with superpowers, and you actually see the death in front of your face. Um, I while they're at this apartment, while he's there picking up, or I don't know, it's apartment or house. The news comes out about Soldier Boy's explosion, and is real upset, and he literally stops in his tracks and says, "I gotta go." And they both get really like everybody gets upset, and his daughter thinks she did something wrong, which really breaks me because that's going to come back to haunt us later on. And because nothing on this show gets written in for just, you know, to walk by it. It's always something that we're coming back to. Um, they they literally that's where Starlight's in crime analytics, and then Blue Hawk does his apology thing, and everybody accosts him rightfully, and then he starts yelling all lives matter, and I'm like,
well, he
oh
took it
no.
he took it even one step further. Not only is he going, so they're chanting black, not only is he saying all lives matter, he then goes Soups lives matter. I was
like,
so disgusted, but also it's just another scene that's like this if superheroes existed in this world, in this timeline, this would happen. And I wrote in my notes, like, there are so many terrible people on the show, and Blue Hawk is a terrible, terrible, terrible person. But so is A-Train, because A-Train facilitates this BS apology from Blue Hawk, brings him to A-Train's brother's community center, and then Blue Hawk goes wild and attacks these people and ends up paralyzing A-Train's brother. And A-Train is only doing any of this because he desperately wants Homelander's respect.
I think the kicker on that is that during that thing, Blue Hawk's doing the whole very stereotypical, like, I can't be racist. I'm friends with a black person. I'm friends with A-Train. A-Train just met him like the day before. They're not friends. And so now A-Train's like, I just allowed this guy to think we're friends or use me as his like black scapegoat friend. like that's why I think it's really going to eat at A Train, and
But
hopefully this is like the swift kick in his ass to.
the worst part about it, though, I don't think it will be because A
Yeah.
Train is a clout chaser and he is the purest form of star fucker. Like he would literally do anything to climb up that ladder and sit in Homelander's chair. And it's so like he's still wearing that costume even though his family told him not to. He literally co-opts his own culture. He brings white supremacists into his culture and allows them to injure and harm his family. He's literally no better. And Jesse T. Usher plays such a like he just makes him vile, and I love that because you have to be like everybody on this show is just so dynamic because they are able to wrap this just disgustingness into these people. And in real life, I mean, they're channeling some shit. Like, it's just like, oh, it's wild. But that's
So
how I feel
now,
about it.
now we have a little bit of tonal juxtaposition because we hear about someone named the Legend, and on their quest to find Soldier Boy after he explodes this, they're gonna go talk to the Legend. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I'm writing a TV show and I want to cast someone named the Legend, my mind immediately goes to the one and only Paul Reiser,
Oh yeah, always.
who now, by the way, is on arguably the two most popular and beloved genre TV shows airing at the moment. To have this
Hmm.
1-2 punch of The Boys and Stranger Things, Mad About You. I don't think Paul Reiser's mad about anything. Kudos to his agent.
Man,
And he is
if they could get him on Star Wars or an MCU show, then he would have like that's not a trifecta. That's like what, a quadfecta or something like that. I'm making up words.
It's
now,
a quadrilateral equation, is what it is. But so we see this character, the Legend, and this is interesting because one of the other themes I think we've seen in this season, we've talked about a little bit, is the difference between how things used to be done and how things are done now. And the Legend, from what I think we could piece together, was a movie producer and also like a superhero handler of yore. So he was basically what Vought is now. And he talks about how superheroes now are like plastic and packaged and corporate sanitized and controlled. And he was just out there making them look cool and making fun movies and doing cocaine with them. It's a really fun scene. And I have to imagine we have not seen the last of Paul Reiser, but if it's just this one moment, he really made the most out of this moment.
I agree. He literally reminded me of any character like, oh, what was it? What's his face from Ocean's 11?
Elliot
But
Gould,
yes,
yeah.
he reminded me of him with the glasses and
your
like I
line
feel
is
like he would
your line is Caldwell's kid. That's nice. Get in the goddamn
get
house.
get in the
Yeah.
goddamn house. Yeah. And you just can't help it. You're like, oh my God, I want him to have a get in the goddamn house moment or get in the goddamn house. But he doesn't. But I mean he has so many more. So it's like, oh well, I guess we trade him for that.
There's a lot of other little things that happen. But there are a couple moments I really want to talk about.
Mhm.
We alluded to it earlier. This episode has an incredible musical number. We come back to Kamiko in the hospital. Her and Frenchie are watching the great classic film Girl Crazy. And we saw a scene, I think in the first episode, where Kamiko envisioned herself singing. But in this scene, for the first time, Kamiko is able to speak a little bit. She's able to say some words. And then Frenchie goes to get a doctor and is abducted by little Nina. But Kamiko doesn't know this, and she fantasizes this incredible, elaborate musical number with singing and dancing, and it's beautifully choreographed and well shot. I'm like, this is great. Whoever directed this should direct a musical next. Eat your heart out, High School Musical, the series.
Yeah, it was great. It was super colorful. It was super fun compared to the gritty darkness that is usually The Boys. It went from like plain and gritty to beautiful, poppy. It looked like the opening of the Tonys. It was absolutely stunning, and I loved it. And Karen Fukuhara is like, just, oh, she's amazing. I watch her all day. Please continue. Do what you do, girl. Do what you do. Um, it was absolutely fun. I loved it. What do you think, Robert?
So I was just looking real quick. The director of this, Nelson Cragg, has worked on that show Pose.
Hmm.
So
Woo.
Okay.
he's got that in his repertoire. So might not be completely surprising, but yeah, I love the musical part to this. I'm kind of curious, like, where was the detachment of the music? Like, the second that she's able to start speaking, was that a part of her?
I
Was
don't
that also
know.
a part of this, or did that actually really happen? And then it
I
was just completely once
I think that really
Frenchie left.
happened. I think that really happened because Frenchie heard it and Frenchie got up to go find a doctor.
Yeah.
Well, but then when they came back, he went to go get coffee, and that's
Oh,
when
Yeah.
he
that's
got
right. That's
abducted.
right.
So I'm not like, I think he actually heard it, but I think it also went kind of weird somewhere. And I was like, I don't know which
Well,
part it,
it
yeah.
it, it makes you wonder about like why she is mute. Because we know she's not deaf. We know she can hear. So I can't help but wonder that if the collateral damage her violence has caused, maybe there was an incident when she was a youth that was so traumatic that she stopped being able to speak. And there are stories like that in the real world where someone has a situation happen to them or because of them, an accident, and it totally affects their brain chemistry and their ability to communicate. And maybe now that she doesn't have her powers anymore and she actually got hurt, something changes within her and she can regain her. It's going to be interesting to see how that um, occurs throughout the rest of the season and series.
I'm willing to bet
Absolutely.
though, this whole thing with Frenchie being abducted, she's gonna end up taking like Compound V again and getting her powers back to go rescue him. So she's gonna end up with her powers, and like there'll be this whole arc with her like sacrificing her freedom from her powers to save Frenchie, and yeah, that's gonna be a whole thing.
Yeah, I
That
totally
makes
think that's going to
sense.
happen. That's kind of where I thought we were ending up to. But I want to transition past Frenchie into the biggest cameo of the episode from the always amazing producer Seth Rogen, aka Sir Comes-a-Lot 779. When he appeared on screen, I was like, Seth fucking Rogen, finally! Just like, I fully applauded by myself, sitting in my living room, just like, yep, that
I'm
happened.
honestly surprised him and Evan haven't directed an episode yet.
They probably will. I
I
wouldn't
think
be
they
surprised.
will.
Yeah, they have to.
Because
All
this
I
is the
know,
end showed they can do the gore and the violence.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, that one was so good. All I know is that he's basically in a private room camming with Crimson Countess, and it was so funny. I was
Well,
like, oh my God.
my question is he just supposed to be himself? Is he supposed to be Seth Rogen?
Why does he always end up coming on camera like that? Like, why does this always happen with the goofy ass fucking laugh? I love it. It must be his thing. He was like, I did it in long shot, so let's go. I was like, um, so in the middle of this, Countess gets attacked. The phone flips over and he's like, oh, where'd you go? I'm
I gotta
finishing. And it's
finish.
fucking hysterical. I was like,
One of the funnier coming on screen moments I've seen in a while. Not that I've seen many of them. It's not something that a lot of stuff
it's,
does.
but tell me I'm wrong. It's always Seth Rogen.
Oh,
It's
always.
Yeah.
almost always
Well,
Seth Rogen.
one of the great things about Seth Rogen and why I think he's really in a class of his own in some ways is he has no shame. He will do anything on screen for the vid.
Absolutely,
Anything.
absolutely. Don't be surprised if we end up tagging him in this, just because he'll probably appreciate the fact that we gave mad props to one of our favorite guys
I
and that
actually
beautiful
have
fucking
his
laugh.
book right here, coincidentally.
Name drops. Hey, um, no,
Fellow
like
Jew Seth Rogen.
it's a great scene. It leads in. You're just dying laughing. She's about to like plop anal beads in, and she's like rubbing them against her very costumed ass, and then she gets tackled and basically like cum shot credits done. Not to quote Zack and Miri Make a Porno or anything. And then like she's told that Soldier Boy is coming for her. And
she knew he was alive, which
yeah, she knew he was alive.
she
She
done
gave him
knew.
over to the Russians. He was in love with her. She and everybody else in their team that I can't remember the name of at this exact moment hated him. And that really, really sucks. Um, they're using her as bait, and then Starlight walks up, and she's not happy. And MM called her for backup, and he was just standing there with his beat. And he does the cute Huey thing where he pops into nothing and pops back naked, and I'm like, clothes back on.
And then slowly puts his clothes on. That was so funny.
Yeah. And he starts talking about how he's seen train spotting and da 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 da, and he goes, "I can finally save you for once." And she says the best thing. It like hit me in this weird way, like just I don't need you to save me, I just need you. And it's
Aww.
like why can't you guys just run away? But it's probably Homelander will chase you, and that'll really suck. And I don't like
Yeah, and
it.
you know, this really leads to the end of the episode. There's not really a big action moment. Crimson Countess is dead.
Oh well, I mean, he blasts her and burns her to a literal crisp.
And
Did,
it
did
seems
y'all
like
did y'all know that was Lori Holden?
yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was her until like the split second before like she died. I was like, wait a minute. That
Well,
was
see, there's this
Lori
thing
Holden
called
the whole time.
this is going to be wild, but there's this thing called the credits.
Yeah, I
And
know.
also Wikipedia, because we go there a lot.
You know, this sort of all brings us to the end of the episode. There's not a big action beat. Crimson Countess is dead. Soldier Boy is walking away from the explosion, and it seems like Butcher made a deal with Soldier Boy. And he says the line that we kind of predicted last week. We wanted a weapon. Soldier Boy is our weapon.
Yep.
Starlight is begging Huey not to go. Begging. And Huey walks away and the episode ends.
And that brings us to Robert's positing that Soldier Boy is going to basically end Homelander. And I do think that is correct.
Almost.
However,
Yeah.
I do have one slight difference that I think is going to happen. I think Homelander isn't going to die, like you said. I think he's going to have his powers taken away, but I don't think he's going to turn good. I think he's going to turn into a whiny baby biatch.
Yeah.
And he's just going to rant and rail, but he can't do anything. And then he's going to try to get his hands on Tempe.
To get the power back.
If he lives. If they let him live, we have ways for him to get his powers back. If they don't let him live, bye, Anthony. It was fun. We had a great time with you.
Then
But
the show's over.
it's
Not necessarily.
Soldier Boy is probably just as bad. There are still a lot of soups who need soap in their mouths, as my mama would say.
As long as Ashley is alive and well, the show has its villain.
Yo, homie, Stan Edgar's still alive out there too. I mean, Ashley's not scary. She's not scary at all. She just stands up and grits her teeth and is like, "I'm the CEO."
She's
But
just
that
awful
she,
and gross.
yeah, she's not scary and played very well. But Stan Edgar's scary, and I think we'll see him because he is a series regular.
And
So
Newman and Victoria Newman's still out there too. There's a lot still
wonder-
going on.
speculation on how many people and soups are going to die next week during Herogasm?
15 to 20. I think we're going to lose at least one main character.
Okay.
At least one. And a lot of secondary characters. Maybe some we've seen before. Maybe some we're not expecting.
Bets and guesses on who we're going to lose.
I don't know.
I think we might lose A-Train.
I could see that, or the Deep. I could see one of the two of them going.
I
Well,
think
because
there's too much going on with A-Train and him needing to like come back to realistic world. I don't know if they're gonna off him before he's able to make that leap.
just because the episode is called Herogasm, it doesn't mean that we're not going to get some sort of storyline with him and his family. Because his brother just did get paralyzed. He could do something good and make it right and then get killed. I mean, we didn't think Supersonic was going out. I thought that kid was staying for a little bit. And he was just like, bye.
There are a lot of characters we saw fleetingly in the reality show scenes that could all die.
I think both Newman and Homeland are losing their powers before the end of the season. I think it's gonna like maybe Newman prior. I still don't think Newman is completely evil. I just think that I think she knows that her daughter is in danger. She has to do what she has to do because Homelander is psychotic. So I don't know, like I think she's in that the necessary evil for the necessary good. And I really hate that because those characters are the murkiest ones of all. Because you never know where they really lie. It's kind of like a Snape character.
I wonder if they're setting up where Newman's daughter ends up killing her. Like the daughter kills her mom in the end.
Ooh,
Now that she's got the compound V, she's got powers of some sort, probably. That would be interesting.
that's a really cool twist. I think that would be really neat. Or there's so many ways that this could go. You never know what they're going to do because
They don't follow the comics.
these showrunners and writers are absolutely brilliant and they stay shocking you from the get. I mean, I honestly did not think that I was going to see a dude climb into someone's dick, but we saw that within the first 5 minutes of the fucking series or the season. So you never know what's going to happen here. But yeah. Any follow-up thoughts before we call it tonight, Jen?
I just want to reiterate that this is one of my favorite episodes the series has done, and the fact that it was all of that without having a big action scene, without anything hugely gory or like gross and shocking like we've come to see, is a testament to how all of that is window dressing to the high quality writing and character work and satire.
I would like to also bring up something that we completely forgot and left out of everything. Where's Maeve?
She
Well,
got so yeah, that's right.
Well,
She
no,
came,
like
she came back and got
gapped.
kidnapped. Yeah, by
Yeah,
Homelander.
she got well, and Black Noir,
Yeah,
who we haven't seen since that episode, basically, since the one where we found out about Soldier Boy's not demise.
yeah.
So
Maybe Black Noir gets it next week, this week, whenever.
continually forgetting about him too. But yeah, so I agree with you. Going back to the final thoughts, I absolutely think that this is a wild show. It's the whole thing is one of my favorites, but this was one of my favorite episodes of the show itself. And it's because it actually felt like they took time to do something other than shock and awe. Even though it was still like a lot of the moments were still up there, you could tell that they took some time to really flesh out a lot of characters, to give you more of them, to set up more storylines, and to lead us into next week's journey of wildness and debauchery. Like they just really gave it to us wholeheartedly, and it was fun. So yeah, Robert.
Again, like we said at the beginning, this is kind of like the another calm before the storm type of thing. We know Herogasm is going to be next week, and that's going to be a massively huge, bloody, sex-filled, just it's going to be nasty. It's going to be probably the most like adult R-rated NC-17 triple X episode of this entire series. And I sure hope so because it's going to be nice and it's going to be fun and I can't wait. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot going on and I'm curious. I mean, we've all got some really good theories with this show so far. I feel like almost every theory that we've thought of or said is very, very plausible and is not outside the realm of possibility for the directions this show could go. I really would like to see all of these in all honesty. I would love to see and it's weird to say, but this is the kind of show this is. I would love to see Victoria Newman's daughter kill her mom. As far as the storyline for this show, I feel like that would be something that would be awesome to see in this story. And we were like, fuck, dude, this is all kinds of crazy. The stuff that they could be doing with Homelander, as we're kind of guessing, those are really cool, neat ideas. Like, I want to see it. So, yes, I said the word neat. I don't know.
Neato burrito.
It's a neato idea. Yeah.
It'll
Whatever.
be super cool beans.
Yeah.
Anyways, folks, thank you all so much for listening to us ramble on about The Boys, a show we all love very much. We will be back next week to talk about Herogasm. Quick note, it is going to look a little different than our prior episodes. Some of us are going to be on vacation, are going to film it in our hotel room, but we will get it out for you next week. Instead of editing it the way we have been, probably going to do a more quick version of the show for next week through a different process. Anyways, that's if you care at all. But Robert, real quick, where can people find you? What you got going on?
You can find me a part of the Cinefanatics over on youtube.com/Cinefanatics. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CinefanaticsMLP. Me personally, you can follow at Robert Adams MLP on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Yeah.
Awesome. You could find Ember Productions.
Ember.
You can find Ember Productions on Twitter at Ember Products. That's Ember Produx. That's our Instagram as well. Go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it on your social media. We super appreciate that. And
all
hit
our
that
socials,
bell so you can know when everything is coming.
Yeah, all our socials should be in the video description. I'm Takara Kanashi. He's Cinemaxwell or Cinemaxwell Inc. on Instagram. Definitely should us follow, like our content. We're doing a lot of really cool stuff, and we found out more stuff that we have coming up. So keep with us. Stay tuned. It's gonna be a really fun ride.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.